Hi there, and welcome to Squidcast with me and the rest of Team Kraken. I'm Greg.
I'm Neil.
I'm Jay.
I'm Peter.
So this is the first of what we hope will be quite a lot of these podcasts, and we're basically going to be looking at different topics from role-playing games to tabletop war games and computer games. As you can tell, we like our games. So the first topic area we're going to be taking a look at is the recent Kickstarter for Exalted 3rd Edition, which finished up with just under $700,000 pledged, which actually broke all RPG records on Kickstarter. We're all Exalted fans here, so let's see what folk think about it.
Yes, we've been looking forward to this for quite a few years. We've all played Exalted 2nd Edition quite a lot, and so 3rd Edition now starting to get more information on it. Kickstarter's been a lot of help there, lots of previews, both mechanically and with the changes they've done to the setting. Got everyone riled up and excited over the changes.
So what changes in particular did you like?
There's a lot of changes to the actual Exalt type, seemingly. There's obviously, they're making the, what's the word I'm looking for? The base Exalts are changing some of their...
Core Exalts. Core
Exalts, yeah. The Core Exalts from 2nd Edition. Some of them are changing away from their past, such as the Abyssals and Infernals.
I love the Abyssal change.
Yes, they're being less, what's the word they use? Not slaves, now apprentices. Which is...
more like a student to their Death Lord masters rather than a enslaved, murderous nutcase.
Unless you want to be, of course.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Well, yeah, you can be it, but there's... Let's not
go into moral debates here. let's just keep it to RPGs.
I was going to say, let's not start the podcast with okaying mass murder.
Start as you mean to begin.
They don't know our RP tendencies then.
Yeah, especially Jay. But
I feel that's so undeserved.
And yeah, I play the Abyssals. And only one of us is the Psycho. But
Lunar for life.
Well, Lunars will eventually get done. We didn't get a preview for Lunars, which was a small pity. But
I was devastated, truly.
What previews have you had so far? Because I haven't been keeping up with it.
We've had previews of Solars from the Kickstarter itself. Obviously, they want to do that. We've had Infernals, which was a really good one. Quite interesting take on them now. The way they're changing in the sort of background, with obviously they're downplaying the effect that Yozis can have on creation.
That's because the Yozis were bollocks.
Yeah,
sorry,
it's nice. It's nice that they're downplaying the fact that eventually these guys are going to win anyway. So whatever you do, just enjoy the time you have.
You'd have your campaign being like, guys, the Bandit King is taking over the realm. Well, not the realm. He's taking over this realm, and you need to stop him. We can't, man. The Yozis are here in a year. We need to power up. Stupid. And
yeah, it's true. As much as I like my cosmic god monsters, I'm happy for them to take a back seat. They're still in it. I'm fine with that. The fact that they can't affect the world easily, directly. Great with that. They take a back seat to big demons and infernals. All the better, because that's who people play, or who people should interact with more with anyway.
Yeah, since no one will know, Peter's a big fan of his cosmic god monsters. He likes his Catan and the Fork universes, Eldrazi for magic, and
the Yozis and Exalted.
Yozis and Exalted.
You never think I'm the nice guy.
You're the nice guy until you snap. That Game of Thrones game that you played in the RPG, mental. Peter decided randomly came out of left field one day in a RPG of the Song of Ice and Fire game, and decided to murder all the NPCs in what was a horrific show of brutal force, which murdered the entire pre-writ campaign. And
I murdered like 2 people that weren't supposed to be murdered.
Okay, he murdered 2 people and horrifically injured dozens.
I'm appalled, and I want to say that I denounce this type of behaviour.
Jay is a regular psychopath.
Jay, on the other hand, is our traditional slayer / that guy. Although he's been recently usurped by someone else who's more of a that guy.
I'm a little bit disappointed that I'm that guy. I feel it's awfully harsh. But anyway, moving this topic back.
Back to Exalted.
Back to Exalted. Yeah.
We also got a preview for. We also got a preview for the Abyssals, as we mentioned earlier, which changes the take on them. As we've said previously, so we'll just move on slightly past that. No more mirror charms, in the sense of all the charms are going to be printed in the book.
Yep.
Thank goodness, at last. No more having to go, what does that one do again? And having to look
as a big Abyssal player, I especially hated that. I also really hated how difficult it was to do any concepts that weren't evil. So the fact that it can now be pretty much anything a Solar can be, or an Abyssal, and an Abyssal take on it is good.
The Abyssal of the group, Greg, what would your take? Should we discuss the controversy over the Lovers charm set that was previewed?
I'm really sympathetic to the devs in this one. I think that, for anyone who doesn't know, the controversy was that the devs made some charms which were basically based around seduction. Well, they're all based around ravaging. They use the word ravaging. See, this is the bullshit that people do. They say, based around ravaging charms. So they made some seduction charms for a character called the Lover, clad in a raiment of tears, and she is basically sort of the ultimate seductress in the Exalted setting. And the charms would do things like, over time, she would, people would form attachments to her that she would force on them through her magical powers and charms. And ultimately, she could make people into people who would do what she wanted, slaves. She could make them fall in love with them. She could make it so that they became sort of sex vampires, where instead of going around drinking blood, they'd have to find people to have sex with to survive. And some people online decided this was rape charms, and that was the words we were using, rape charms, and the devs were getting called rape apologists and all that, which was really, really harsh because they used the word ravish. Was it ravish?
Ravish, yeah, which was, is...
In the context of the way they meant it, and I thought it was quite clear how they meant it, it did not mean rape. Rape was
to my understanding, the ravish meaning rape is an older. Is an older.
It can be used in that.
Use of it. It can be, but I believe it's.
But it was clearly
more
just
being replaced.
Yeah. They're changing the word choice of it. They're going to make it more clear. They accept the fact that it caused some offence with people who either who misconstrued it or it wasn't. Well, to be fair, they were more diplomatic about it. They said that they hadn't fully communicated the idea correctly, but. That's fair enough. I'm very sympathetic to them on it because I just think people need to take a step back and realise, don't jump the gun and claim you've taken offence before you work out what's actually happened.
See, I'm kind of in favour of using role-playing games to explore moralities and stuff like that. So, like, having characters that are there that do things that are morally wrong, I'm usually okay with.
These were there for players to use, and I'm not up for like
okay, I thought it was just an NPC that was there.
They've changed the Abyssal charms so that they're based off of Death Lords now, so they're a bit more interesting than just mirrors and shit. So, for example, some of the charms will be based off the Lover's skill set. When the Lover's means seduction, so it's probably some sort of charm-like skill.
The Lover's skill set, that's a wonderful euphemism.
Yeah. So like they're basing a lot of the charms off of Death Lords, so that was going to be a tree you could learn in game. And to be fair, like if you read through that Abyssal preview, they're all about sort of they're not about like making people do things. They're all about addiction, like making people addicted to things, and like mental sort of a social abuse. But it's not like this. It's not what people were suggesting it was. But I think the problem was that the internet's like when people get an idea in their head and.
Yeah.
There was a bit of miscommunication from the devs when they were trying to explain what was going on, because when they were called rape apologists, like you can imagine it caused offence to them as well. So their replies probably weren't perfect. But
known for being the course Exalted devs known for being the most diplomatic of responses.
Well, yeah, like I love reading the forum sometimes when someone says something and like, yeah, this is a bad idea. I'm not happy, and then they go, yeah, well, so. I love that stuff.
As Neil mentioned about the exploring morality in roleplays, that's something we do, just not in the same sense as those charms. With, like maybe other forms of mind control or even killing people.
It's a wee bit squiffy on it when it's that stuff.
It's a sensitive issue.
I'm entirely fine with it because we kind of stay away from that area, but to my understanding, other people are a lot more comfortable role-playing that side of things. So for them,
I perfectly understand the reason why you wouldn't want rape charms in a game, and I don't think there should ever be rape charms in a game because it's a very sensitive issue, and in a really male-dominated game, in a game that's supposed to be quite gender-neutral, Exalted. I mean, hell, this is the game that makes no big issue of sexuality or gender. Like anybody can really do anyone or anything, but
literally.
Yeah, and like I perfectly understand people being sensitive about it, and I wouldn't slag off like anybody. Some people that were squeamish, but that's fair enough because like it was something you could misread. It was just some people took that a bit too far by calling the devs rape apologists, which is what pissed me off. I was sympathetic to them.
In general, I think one of the problems was that the charm to some people implied massively its purpose was for rape. Whereas in second edition, there's probably plenty of charms which will allow you to do that. It just doesn't state that's what they're used for.
An interesting one is one of the charms.
I think we should probably move off the topic of
let's
rape morality.
I was about to give an example of one of the charms and like what it actually did and like how people misconstrued it, because like it was just one that it made your character put their appearance characteristic up to make them more pretty to help their social skills. And it said that your character is so pretty that wailing, lustful ghosts will clamber around their home. And like, I read that as sort of like ghosts that just like trying to get attention and trying to bask in the glory of the character, the beauty of the character. And like other people read that as ghosts trying to rape characters. So like that was the sort of level of like not reading things correct, or like misreading things, or like putting words in the mouth.
Reading things into things. So.
Yeah. They also did a preview for the new Exalted type. Actually, it was Liminals.
For Liminals, yeah.
I really like Liminals.
I was skeptical of them at first. I'm not a massive fan of adding new Exalts to the type, but I say that I'm slowly coming around. They're basically the homunculi from Full Metal Alchemist.
I don't think they are.
I'm sure some aspects, but they're not.
I'm sure you could
exactly the same.
They're more like they seem to be sort of a weird hybrid of Promethean from the other White Wolf games, which are sort of like a artificial life mixed with Soul Reapers from Bleach in a weird way. I mean, basically they are when an artificial body is created and exalted, and some mad scientist tries to bring someone back to life, and there's a spirit in the underworld which sees those potential moments and puts her own another entity into someone, into that body, and turns it into like an exalt of its own, exalts the body. It isn't the person that was getting resurrected, it's just they're using that as a tool or a vehicle for bringing the exaltation about, and it's a unique individual. And
you find...
I think it's the Black Earth, the Black Soil, was it? Something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. But I don't know, we don't know much about her. We know she's a she. I believe she's referenced as a she, like the Dark Mother or something like that.
Yeah, the Dark Mother, that's it, and she's like the soil in the underworld.
Yeah, but we don't actually know what she is or who she is. Perhaps maybe a dead incarnate or something like that.
Possibly. I think it's really cool that it's it's like fleshes out the underworld a bit, because the underworld previously was just that place where Death Lords and Abyssals hang out, and so do ghosts, and they make soul steel. So like anything to make that a bit more interesting, because quite a lot of games can be set there. So there's a lot of potential.
Good to turn it more into a setting opportunity. Yep. That it might have been enough because some people done it in second edition, but it never came across that way to me as a viable option compared to creation.
They're the Liminals, their casts, their classes more or less are themed around like blood, flesh, soil, marrow, and I can't remember the fifth one.
What's the ash? I don't think I'm not sure.
Don't think it is.
Yeah,
but their big deal is that the Dark Mother. I think what I've gleaned from all we've heard about Liminals is that their main goal is to go out there and bring back dead souls, the restless dead, and sort of return them to Leith. I think is it Leith for the normal souls? Yeah, Leith.
Basically system of reincarnation.
Basically heaven or reincarnation, but yeah. I mean,
you don't get to go to heaven and Exalted unless you're very, very.
It's not Judeo-Christian. It's very Oriental.
Very Eastern.
It's a place.
Yeah.
You walk into and goes up.
Yeah, it's physical.
A business district as well. It's a nightmare, you don't want to go there.
I like the Liminals and I like the new Exalt types. I like the fact that they're doing a book for what's called Exigents, which are custom Exalts, so a GM can make an Exalt of anything he wants. Exalts are champions of the gods. Idea. Yeah, so like the champions of the gods, so you could like have the god of ants makes his own exaltation because he manages to get a hold of an exaltation and mess about with it, and stuff like that, and have really unique powers.
Yeah, it's one of my...
you should customize your game.
Yeah, I've already come up with the something I'm going to be using in mind, and like I haven't got the book yet.
Because they have a short story, I think, or an excerpt from a novel or something like that for the Straw Maiden.
Yeah,
I believe it's one of the short stories that will be appearing at some point in the actual printed book when it comes out.
It's not even a new concept because the Abyssals and the Infernals are actually that basically really, really high quality exigents in a weird way.
They're more stolen exaltations rather than.
So are a lot of exigents, I think.
No, you can get black market ones, but that's more of a.
Exigents that aren't altered. Other exaltations are specifically created for their purpose, other than the black market ones, which are lost in the system and then sold off. Yeah. Because the exigents, legal exigents, are sanctioned by the Unconquered Sun, and black market ones are ones that have been.
Well, yeah, but in that sense, Infernals and Abyssals are probably black market exaltations.
No, they're black market. They're maybe black market exaltations, but they're not exigents because they're basically black market solar exaltations.
Okay. Well, okay, cool. Well, I was just more meaning the concept of like abusing an exaltation and warping it to something else.
They're definitely seem like the foundation for it almost.
Yeah. I really like it because it adds variety. Because like previously in Exalted, you had like 300 solars in a world bigger than our own.
300 solar. There hasn't been 300 solars in the world of Exalted for a very long time.
Yeah.
Speaking of a world bigger than
150 at the best.
They've really improved the map. I'm loving the change to the map. It was such an easy the map previously in Exalted was really claustrophobic. It was dotted with places, people everywhere, and you basically couldn't do anything without having to work the meta plot into your story. I mean, you could just steamroll over the meta plot, but sometimes players would seem to expect it, and like people would always reference it in forums, like as a something that got in the way. So they've kind of toned back in that. They've made the map bigger. They've really zoomed out. Actually, that was the best way to add to the map. Instead of like the previous map looked really weird, so they just like zoomed out and then drew.
The only thing is that while the map hasn't changed much, it seems a lot bigger just by zooming it a wee bit out and then changing a few details.
Yeah, it was really boring before as well because they have like 5 elemental poles in Exalted. In the middle, earth, and the west, water, north, wind. Is it wind? Yeah, and the east, nature or gas? Wood.
It says the eastern elements.
Yeah, and the south, fire, and like. But now there's like water in the east, for example, which and like a big sort of massive ocean.
Yeah, poor Mahasuchi.
It's more polarized than general direction.
Yeah. Which is a lot more interesting because not everything is just boring and the same and like miles and miles of sand everywhere.
It'll be interesting to play an Exalted campaign that's not set in the Scavenger Lands for once.
Oh, and besides, sorry.
With them opening up the Blessed Isle, making it mirror creation with its own like 5 poles effectively, or 5 directions, which each similar to creations.
Yep.
And then trying to pull away from the fact that, even though it may not have been true, a lot of people with the idea of, Blessed Isle, Dragonblood live there, don't go there if you're not Dragonblooded, you'll get nabbed. Whereas, you still might get jumped and captured or killed as an anathema in the Blessed Isle. It seems like it's a lot more prominent as a location you could go to without it being a definite no-no.
Besides all these setting things, though, they've also changed the game mechanics a wee bit. We haven't seen much of it, but we do know that the combat is going to be resolved a lot quicker, and that it will be a lot more cinematic, because previously Exalted was an unbalanced heap of shit. And
I hate Exalted combat. I really do. In the last game of Exalted, I just refused to engage in it by going a non-combat character.
It would float
who could not fight.
They would float really cool ideas in front of you, like, take this charm. This charm is so cool and awesome and fun sounding, and then someone else would be like, yeah, well, I'm just a lean, mean, stat-producing killing machine. And they would have some boring ass combinations that were simple and nothing fancy, and it would just annoys me just thinking about it. The combat would be better.
Yeah, because
it can't be worse.
Changing away from the tick-based system of, and even fight combat system of I roll dice at you, and then if I hit you, I don't hit you, and then vice versa. As they mentioned, it may be how it's done in the movies of attack, block, miss, attack, block, so on until you get hit through.
Yep.
It's not fun to play, even no matter how Star Warsy it is probably a good example. Whereas, and that's why the new system, it's not about hitting your opponent, it's about, you can go for the hit straight away, but it's more about you trying to gain the advantage until you get to a point where you can then go for the hit.
Yep.
So it's
it's also a thing as in Exalted, once you got hit a couple of times, you were just crippled in that fight, and that's not anime, and Exalted should be an anime game, but some of the coolest moments in animes are with a hero who's injured and fighting on, and triumphing regardless of the fact he's been
and then still loses.
Being down.
Yeah. There was some charms that helped you that. But
endurance charms.
They were usually persistent. So it was never a case of you're owned until that moment you need to be awesome. It was always you're either owned or you have to charm, which case you're never owned.
Yeah.
In which case,
I suppose it depends. It depends. I know for Lunars at least, that was a choice when activated.
It's weird. It's a D&D mechanic, isn't it? Now that you can do things to get health back, and it feels more like it should be like an anime Exalted mechanic.
Yeah, you can shout at people and they gain health back.
So hopefully we'll get more spoilers about the combat system as time goes on, but I've got a lot of faith in the new devs. I really like them. I like what they say about it. I like their concepts. I like the fact that they're fans primarily of the set. And like,
were they not guys who originally just wrote their own supplements and stuff?
Yeah,
a lot of them were Ink Monkeys. Yeah,
but, basically one of the reasons 3rd edition is around is they pushed it so hard when they because they were basically assigned to fixing 2nd edition, and you realise quickly it couldn't be done. Doesn't matter how many patches they put on it, doesn't matter how much crazy Frankenstein work they done with it. It was never going to work.
At the end of the day, a polished turd is still a turd.
The problem is, though, I mean, they had books like the Scenario one with no keywords in it.
Oh, that was.
Well, we could spend a long time talking about what's wrong with Exalted 2nd Ed.
But
I think we should probably move on to something else now.
One thing I would say about Exalted, it'll be interesting with the new combat system to see how stunts work, because no longer stunts will be just relying on, because you won't be going for a kill strike, or or just a disarm or whatever. You'll be doing some sort of pressing moves, so you'll have to come up with a new way to press the attack without going for that killing blow.
Don't know what a stunt is. Stunts are in Exalted. You get rewarded for describing your actions a bit better. We'll just leave it at that though.
Just build on what Jay said. Because we know that stunts, you don't get willpower back, and motes you get back every turn instead of stunts now. So it drastically changed your direction of what stunts were needed for, which is interesting.
It'll be cool to see how it all plays out.
Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to it.
When is Exalted 3rd Ed actually coming out?
October? I think it's October is what the current date they have is for the 3rd edition main rulebook.
Not long after my dissertation's finished, which is perfect timing.
that's the digital copy. I believe the actual hard copies aren't due out till December.
I thought they were all October, but I might be misremembering.
I can imagine that.
Could make sense, yeah.
Producing physical things is a lot more difficult.
Expensive. Okay, though, let's move on to 40k. So, the new Eldar Codex was recently released to mixed responses.
I find it really weird reading about this, because I see a lot of people who say this is terrible and unusable, and a lot of different people saying that, but never actually agreeing other than Banshees. What is terrible and unusable. There's actually quite a lot of builds, I think, in that book, but I think it's not.
Yeah, there is. But I would say, as the natural Eldar player, it is an absolute nightmare trying to come up with a list for this.
There's so many options.
Although, not necessarily because there's so many options, because Eldar increased in points, and because the units are so focused, you've got to try and work out how to get as much efficiency. Especially if you're one of the guys who just basically goes, okay, I'm playing Tau, I'll build this, then it's fine. The Eldar book is absolutely devastating for that. But if you're trying not to be a total asshole and go for an all-comers list, so you don't just basically go, well, I'm playing that guy, so I'll try and beat him with this, then you've got to come
Not that people who arrange to play each other in advance and write lists for that both sides are assholes, though. That's a perfectly legitimate way to play the game.
No, but if you're one of these guys that goes into the shop and goes, oh, you're playing that kind of army, I'll change this. I don't mean if it's a mutually agreed upon thing, that's fair enough. But, if you're trying to build an all-comers list, you've got a lot of issues in the sense of the fact that you've got your choices between, obviously your HQ. I personally am not the biggest fan of the way the Eldar HQ work. I feel they could have been a lot more interesting. Farseers in particular, I think, were quite disappointing. In the
weirdly,
sense that
Farseers are the one that everyone is taking.
No. I mean, and it's disappointing, not bad.
Yeah.
Mostly in the fact that the actual Eldar powers they have access to, I just feel are really such a letdown.
Psychic powers that have an offensive effect and the defensive effect.
No, that's only for Warlocks and Spirit Seers.
Yeah, so I really like Spirit Seers. I think they're a fantastic HQ choice. But I just feel like Farseers, which are disappointing in the sense of the fact that the actual... obviously they can take Divination Telepathy, which are both fantastic ones. And of course, they start at Psi rating 3. They can get Witchblades, which are Singing Spears, which are no longer two-handed. Interesting enough. We'll see how long that lasts until the FAQ. But Autarchs especially, I thought they could have given them a lot more interesting stuff.
Yeah, I was disappointed as hell with Autarchs. Cause
I, as a Dark Eldar player, was hoping they would just be like Archons.
Not really. The only sort of Autarch I've ever considered is give them Mantle of a Laughing God, Fusion Gun, and a jet bike, so I'm just zoom around with a 2-up.
To be honest, I did write an Eldar list. I don't play them, but I sort of wrote one to try and build an aspect list, and I did include an Autarch because I wanted more control over reserves, but it's really expensive just to do that. So
yeah, you're talking 70 points basic, and they come with nothing.
Yeah.
What my biggest pet peeve of the Eldar book though is this is an outside player with the Eldar, and right now I'm building an Iron Warriors army, which is basically sort of a standard Marine style force. So it's got lots of units of basic Chaos Space Marines. It's got some Predator style tanks and dreadnoughts and the like. So it's not designed to be. It's not designed for competitiveness. It's designed to be sort of a fluffy, balanced army that is also trying to be competitive. I look at that. I look at the rules for Wave Serpents and that 2-up turn and penetrating into a glance, and I cringe and I hate that. And that combined with like Wraith Knights and stuff, and like that's the Wave Serpent change especially though bugs me. They're so hard to kill.
Look at it from the perspective of other people who have a large amount of like Tau, for example. They have a large amount of strength 7 shots. They can overpower it. Necrons especially just don't give they don't care.
But I'm speaking in like the half of standard style Space Marine type armies.
Yeah,
the ones that are advertised in the middle of all those Space Marine books. The most popular style of army.
It should be pointed out that we don't play a lot of, like, at the moment none of us own a flyer. We kind of we are kind of getting back into 40k. Like me and Greg both have played 6th edition kind of since it came out, but just against each other. We're starting new armies kind of from scratch. So I'm doing a guard army. Greg's doing his Iron Warriors. Peter's starting his Tau up again.
Neil's an Eldar.
I'm devastated you don't
Jay's
have
doing Eldar. And and a couple of other friends are also starting new armies. So
I'm devastated you don't count the Grey Knight games, Neil. I'm really disappointed in that.
I count the Grey Knight games. I consider those Grey Knight games two of my favourites. The first one because it taught me the power of hate and despair, and the second one because it showed me the path of righteousness and the path of vengeance works.
I've only played you once with my Grey Knights in 6th edition.
No, you didn't.
6th edition, yeah. You played in the last edition.
Yeah, right, 6th edition. I've only
so
played.
I'm even happier.
Just
the path of revenge.
You absolutely humped me. I think would be the best way to describe that.
As a certain 40k meme goes, my sister of battle started wearing your Grey Knights as hats, and
yep, it didn't help. Yeah, it did not. That game did not go well. But then again, playing against the cowardly Night Lords, once again, truth, justice, and the Grey Knight way proved to be the ultimate victor.
For the Grey Knights are so pure. Yep.
That was winning.
If you guys would like to know how our 40k statistics tend to go, then you would have to look at it this way. Neil tends to lose. Jay tends to lose horrendously or win horrifically.
I swing both ways.
And oh god. And Peter Peter's fairly mixed balanced set of results, I'd say. Like leaning towards winning since the new Tau book.
Yeah, well, my new Tau statistics are quite good.
Yeah.
I'm happy with them.
Yeah, we thought about
that so much.
It wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for that bloody warlord trait with no scatter.
It's come up once. You remember it
Twice now.
Yeah. When he played me with that, me and Peter played our first game of 6th edition together with the new Tau, 500 points. I was using my new Night Lords, and it's the first game we played. And he rolled his Tau commander, got a no scatter warlord trait. And I looked at my army with its 1 Vindicator and the Predator and thought, yeah.
One of these is going to die.
One.
And he never rolls ones, that's the worst part.
Yeah.
Never rolls ones.
Yeah, I've been quite good at that.
I refuse to accept Jay costing anyone over dice rolls, though. This is the guy that could roll 10 4-up armor saves, which in a d6 obviously has you should pass 5 of them. Pass 6 and go, oh, what luck! What terrible luck! Like, while you look at him from across the table and wonder how easy it would be to throttle him.
The story you were referencing earlier, the one that generated hatred, was of 17 armor saves from Flamers.
Not a single Grey Knight died.
Not a single Grey Knight
died.
Nope. He fell into a massive trap, but I should have realised better. It wasn't a trap, for Neil realised that he would pass all 17 of his armour saves, and the Grey Knights would gloriously massacre the rest of the Sisters' army.
Well, you do what you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. The next time we played, I was really vicious about it. He'd forgotten about this game, I had not.
You went and built a different Sisters list after that.
Yeah.
And played every other Grey Knight list shot.
In Glasgow, yeah.
Because something we haven't mentioned is we're all from Glasgow, so...
As you may not be able to tell from our highly cultured accents. But we all play in Glasgow Games Workshop sometimes. We're definitely used to it a lot. We don't do it too much anymore. To be fair, we usually play at my house, actually. We've got a table set up. So our metagame for a while was just me versus Neil. So it was like the entire 40k universe may as well not have existed. It was just Night Lords versus Sisters of Battle.
Yeah, I don't think I won any of those games.
But anyway, on Eldar.
Back to Eldar.
I'm
not comfortable talking about the results of those games.
Yeah. So we've gone through the HQ. Obviously, the special characters. There's some nice It does disappoint me a wee bit that Baharth is the only one that can sort of really get into grips in close combat.
What about
the only one with an AP3 one?
What about the
probably on purpose?
What about the £75 elephant in the room?
Well, I was going to say we could go through the general sort of build up, and we'll get to the heavy support later. There's obviously a lot to talk about there.
HQ first, then
only £70.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to get rid of your mortgage.
Yeah. So obviously the big change to the overall Eldar list is the massive boost to shuriken weaponry, combined with the new battle focus, which for anyone,
the big one.
Suddenly Eldar Guardians are better than Dark Eldar Warriors, which seems wrong.
Well, to be fair, I've always thought that was the case. You're the upstart race that turned
upstart. We're the Dark Eldar are the originals, man. You guys are the upstart.
No.
Eldar are living at large.
Edition. We've been around since Rogue Trader.
Yeah, no, but in the history, in the background.
I know that's just tacked on. That's just tacked on. So
tacked on.
It's about time that shuriken weapons came back to being.
There's a reason why they call the Eldar the Dang. Anyway,
to be fair, whether Guardians or Kabalite Warriors are better than each other, arguable. They have different rules.
Yeah, no, but
I love that Kabalite Warriors though kill the 70-pound elephant in the room.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You know, Wraith Knights, you know, you won't be phased by anything except for slightly poisoned shuriken.
I'm a wee bit disappointed that Rangers, the Ranger long rifle, came just an ordinary sniper rifle. Maybe that's just me hanging on to the days of glories past.
You hanging on to second edition? No.
No. They've
had
special rules in both third and fourth edition codexes.
Neil, you don't need to justify yourself. I'm on your team. No, don't. I'm siding with you. Don't slag yourself. No, it's fine.
Some of us have been playing 40k a lot longer than others, and like to hark back to those days occasionally.
Neil was an old man in many ways.
He is an old man.
You should see how he dresses.
Well, you are an old man. But,
Jay is an old man.
I'm an old man. Fuck you.
Well, anyway, so
the Ranger long rifles may be just normal sniper rifle now, but as a whole, the unit is a lot better. You know, their cost effectiveness.
A lot
more usable. A lot more usable. Was it like half the cost or something like
that? Went from 19 down to 12. So, but from that, they gained +1 weapon skill, +1 initiative. Not that that's really going to do that much.
Be surprised.
Well, yeah, probably would be surprised. But then again,
guardsman in combat.
Yeah. Ooh, I really hope my Rangers aren't getting to close combat with Guardian. But Wave Serpent, as we briefly mentioned,
Perfect.
Is
probably
it's pretty good.
Everyone's talking about using the shield as a weapon, and I'm thinking, who would give up 2 up to ignore penetrating?
Well, after the
when you're on one hull point, the ability to just launch D6 plus 1 strength 7 hits across the battlefield is range 6.
And if you look at this, if you zoom out and look at this at a broader context, after you've decimated the enemy's tanks with your unkillable Bright Lance toting transports of doom, then you may as well shoot everything else.
Yeah, true.
It's not so bad. It's like a 4 up cover save. Bright Lance.
If you continue this, I will censor you in video editing.
5 points.
I will censor you in video editing. So
it's definitely probably the second best troops transport in the game after Necron's one because they get a flyer. That's hard. It's a good flyer as well.
Yeah,
it's hard to compete with that as a troops choice transport.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to elites, we've got the devastation that is the Howling Banshees.
If they get grenades, they could at least be somewhat usable. But
even then, they've just become a joke. Like,
become a joke for a while. It's just been cemented.
Yeah, really wouldn't want to accuse Games Workshop of pandering to new models, but yeah, it kind of makes clear that the Wraith Blades are the sort of way you want to go if you want to deal with your heavy infantry.
Well, you got to remember this codex is in part an advertisement for buying Wraith units. I mean, they've unleashed an Eanding codex. Every new model is a Wraith unit, and like the centerpiece army is Wraith.
It's weird. I'm seeing people saying that they don't think Wraithguard are a particularly viable build.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is in the wider metagame. I just always skew it to our metagame, and in our one it's horrific.
No, I would disagree. I'd say there are occasional units. There are, but there's, you couldn't beat 3 Wraith Knights in our meta.
I can barely beat 1.
We'll move. We'll get to that point when it comes up. But no, I'd say that the Wraithguard they're good, but again, their cost in addition to the other costs of Eldar, because Eldar are a very expensive army unless you decide to go for the Guardians option. You're looking at 13 points for your basic troops, but obviously Wraithguard quite good. Wraithblades, your sort of standard anti-Terminator unit if you want to equip them with the 4 invulnerable saves and the strength 7 power weapons.
Well, let's move on to fast attack and so we can tie up Eldar.
We've still not touched on the other aspects in the elite section.
Yeah, I mean Scorpions are now good.
Scorpions are now incredibly viable. Very scary now. Now they can move through cover. They now actually get a lot of powers. One thing they've done in particular with the new aspects is a lot of the time, if it was an aspect power that the Exarch would formally bestow upon the unit, they've now given, especially in the case of striking Scorpions, they've now given it to the actual unit themselves. So no longer do you have to take an Exarch in order to get or infiltrate your move through cover and your stealth.
Although a lot of the Exarch powers are naff now.
They're not characterful. I don't care about how good they are.
Unmanaged.
They're just not very characterful because they're all the same. I would rather the Exarch powers were just your unit gets a special effect if you still have an Exarch alive, and it was some characterful thing the unit would get. I would rather have it explained like that because at least that would feel like some personalities in it.
That's one of the problems with the change. Obviously, Exarchs, outside of a few examples such as striking Scorpions, a lot less needed for a unit, so you might see people taking them less. But also, they do get a few extra bonuses here and there, but they're definitely not a general must-take they used to be.
Yeah, the only Exarchs I genuinely see you need are the one for the Swooping Hawks
and the Flyer.
You don't even need that. I mean, the Flyer, you're looking at 160 points, and you've got 4 strength each shot.
If you're spending 160 points, you may as well spend a little bit extra to make all those hits.
It is 20 points. Yeah,
it's well worth it. Worth it.
If you can free it up, but I would say, definitely in the case of Dire Avengers, it's utterly pointless now.
Eldar bikes.
I skipped them when I wrote a
Eldar
list.
bikes are pretty epic still.
They're choice.
We missed out jet bikes, which are now.
They've been troops for the last for the last edition as well. But you're looking at it. You're paying 17 points each for a fairly terrifying.
I mean, Space Marine toughness wise, but they are so much faster and they can get cover saves.
And they can claim objectives.
Yeah,
and they're only a little bit more expensive per model.
Plus, of course, Velocity Score 4. Twin like Shuriken catapults. That's a lot of.
They can get
many rending.
1 Shuriken cannon per 3, so you can have squads of 9 with 3 Shuriken cannons.
Yeah, really good ratio.
Yep. So after that, we've talked about bikes, talked about Aspect Warriors.
We've got the Fire Dragons, which of course had a big change.
They get changed from being overpowered overlords of all time in creation to.
Greg, you see, sometimes a wee bit bitter about certain Eldar units.
I'm not bitter. I just like to mildly exaggerate the truth.
So obviously they had a large points increase. Exarch powers kind of disappeared. The only one really worth taking is of course the fast shot, because who wants a strength 4 Exarch in close combat with a basic fist? Just punching you, not really worth it for 10 points.
To try and push it to the heavy support, how have Dark Reapers changed?
Dark Reapers have changed quite a bit, but we're just skipping fast attack.
Pretty much.
Okay, fair enough. The fast attack choices did change a lot, but we can always go back to them. Yeah, Dark Reapers changed quite a bit. They can now move and fire because they're slow and purposeful, but of course they don't have fleet, which would be a rather interesting one to have.
They also don't have battle focus.
Yeah, they don't have battle boots either. Yeah, came down.
They can shoot flyers, yeah?
No, the Exarch can.
Okay. Is he good at it?
Well, he's Ballistic Skill 5 with flak missiles, so...
Can they get fast shot?
Can he get fast shot? Yes, he can.
So he can get 2 shot. I mean, he's not the best anti-flyer in the game.
No.
You can't get multiple shots.
That is pretty much that and the Eldar Flyer are the...
Is his flak shot just a single strength 7 shot?
Yeah, which if you take fast shot becomes 2. But you're paying a lot.
That's right. He is a last resort, squeeze it in there, anti-flyer. It's really not that point efficient.
Yeah, you're looking at 70 points just for the Exarch alone on that one, including his base Reaper cost before you upgrade him. They do, of course, Reaper Rangefinder, I believe, does something to cover saves.
Ignores Jinx saves.
Yeah, ignores Jinx saves, that's it, which obviously makes them...
Is that, does Evasive Maneuver give you a Jinx save? I don't know.
Yes, Evasive Maneuver does give you a Jinx save.
Yeah, there's not improved.
No, Flyers don't have a Jinx save.
There's a way, because I know they can get cover save if they do Evasive Maneuvers.
Yeah, it's a Jinx save.
It's a Jinx save, okay.
I've heard that Falcons have been made absolutely bollocks and pointless.
Falcons are pointless, yep. But it's okay, it's actually good to have some pointless stuff in your heavy support, because in the Eldar heavy support there's so much to choose from that's so
7 choices or 8
I
choices.
like the Falcon model, it annoys the crap out of me that they don't make it.
It's just naff, that's the trouble.
I'll say this, I point something out to Jay, remember what I said about the Falcon?
Yeah, you could do it, but I mean...
This may be something you DFQ'd, but it says you can swap out... you can upgrade a Shuriken cannon to one of the following weapons, like Star Cannon, Bright Lance, and so on. And then you can upgrade Shuriken Catapult to Shuriken Cannon, which would give 2 Shuriken Cannons, which means you could swap out both Shuriken Cannons, so you could have a Pulse Lasers and 2 Bright Lances.
I think this is not rules as intended.
No,
that's my assumption. That's why I say we're going to have to wait for the FAQ, but I don't think there's anything raw that says you can't do it. But, it's something I'd probably stay away from. I don't have to, luckily.
Yeah,
but
raw or rules as written.
Yeah.
That a lot of things, even in the core rulebook, there's some mistakes that lead to FAQ that you just have to work through. I don't think that would be sporting to do that, even if it would make Falcons useful or really good.
The other thing I'd say
it's a win, because you'd have to pay the Shuriken Cannon, and then on top of that you'd have to pay the...
Yeah, if you're going
to do that, you might as well... Oh, for goodness sake. If you do that, you might as well just pay for the Crimson Hunter, because you're looking at the same points cost, really. Because
what about Fire Prisms?
Fire Prisms, now they are interesting, because they changed quite a bit. No longer can they link weaponry, so you're not encouraged to take multiple. Of course, they changed the least out of all the other vehicles in the sense that they already were Ballistic Skill 4. Obviously, a bit more survivable now that the Hull Fields actually do something again. But Prism Cannon...
Hull Fields are really nice.
Yeah, Hull Fields are really nice, but Tau make them better.
There are no disruption fields.
No, they're no disruption fields.
Cost the same.
So, yep. But the Prism Cannon obviously changed. It's a lot more dangerous to tanks by itself. Of course, you do have to rely on the fact that you're now no longer a scatter weapon when you want to be in your anti-tank mode. So you will suffer a wee bit from the las cannon syndrome of the constant ones, which is always fun.
That's okay. It's okay, Neil, because you don't roll that badly. That's me.
Yeah.
That's true. But so the support batteries, interestingly. No, they're still naff. But
Wraith Knight we've already talked about.
Wraith Knight, of course, is really devastating. Yeah, we haven't really talked about it. We've talked about how much you hate it, but...
that's all I really want to be communicated.
You're looking at 240 points base for probably the scariest profile out there at the moment, I'd have to say.
A 6 winded, toughness 8, monstrosity with 3 up armor, good invulnerable save, and
it doesn't. No, that's not. You don't get the invulnerable save with the base cost. You've got to upgrade that.
I would hardly say good. It's 5 up.
Yeah.
The big deal is the jump pack. Like that thing will be in combat with you very quickly, and good luck stopping it unless you're like a Tau army.
It doesn't really. It's a shooting unit. The problem is that the best defense to it is hard. The best hard counter to it is high strength combat units with good AP. That is the best way to kill it. But it's really good at keeping out of range of those units.
Yep.
And it is really good in close combat as well. So don't necessarily think just because you get your Terminators in there, you're going to beat it up. It does have 4 attacks.
Unless they have storm shields, when they should probably probably win if they're properly kept.
If the Terminators get in close combat, if it gets in close combat with Terminators with Storm Shields, yes, it deserves to lose, but that really shouldn't be happening there.
Unless they're an Land Raider.
Yeah, obviously Warwalkers changed quite a bit. They've now gained the 5 up invulnerable, which is
battle focus.
Yeah,
Yes.
battle open top. But
And fleet.
Uniquely they have fleet and battle focus in addition to scout. Obviously, because Eldar heavy weapons are now at sensible points values rather than the ridiculousness of 4th edition.
Flak missiles, God, aren't they like 100 points each for flak missile variants? Of those
If
things?
you want, let's see, if you want to have, we're looking at
25 for Eldar
90, 110 points if you want to flak missiles. Eldar really can only deal with flyers by using their own flyer, so let that be a warning to you. Those of you thinking
Either our allies. I think a lot of people I think will put Tau in there to.
I'm really disliking the allies thing. Obviously, we still have the newest addition to the actual Eldar Codex in terms of things that have had models. The Night Spinner, rather interestingly, quite good anti-tank, quite cheap, 150, running in at 115 points basic, so you're going to be looking at 130 by the time you give it a holofield. Has quite a nice weapon that doubles quite well as anti-light vehicle, quite good anti-troops, especially big barrage, big blast.
Like the Eldar don't really struggle with light vehicles though, so it's like, do you need it for that?
No, we probably don't need it, but then again, who's complaining? It's an extra thing in the list. It's not using one of our models, but I've genuinely considered putting it in my list.
So let's try and get a summary of Eldar, because although there's still things we could talk about, we've spent quite a long time on them. So let's hear. What's your general summary of them, Neil?
I kind of like them, but I always kind of liked Eldar, but there's annoying problems in the book. Like, I think their like unique equipment list is like annoyingly, like, there a few changes would have made it really interesting. It's just not there for me. It bugs me that things like Banshees are pretty much unusable. But I mean, I tried to make an aspect list that was like filled up with aspects, and I tried to put a Falcon in there, although like I'd probably end up changing it to Wave Serpents just better.
It's cheaper and better.
But the idea was for the extra anti-tank.
Oh.
But the idea of that list was actually it's a really weird list. I don't know how it would work, but it was crystal targeting matrices and holofields on the tanks. The Falcon would hide the sight, and the Wave Serpents would hide and cover in turn 1. Or if you're getting and then your turn 1, you zoomed up 30 inches, fired to try and take out some tanks with bright lances, and then next turn, and you move up with scorpions and
then next turn you jump out and try
scorpions and warp spiders. And the next turn you basically had everything in the enemy's face shooting and causing damage on turn 2. And just try and overload them, and then you had an autarch in there to bring in some.
So how happy are you with the book? Like out of 1 to 10?
7 probably. It's just too many things in there that bug me because they're not internally balanced very well.
What about you, Jay?
Personally, it does disappoint me. My favorite one of my favourite aspects is now just being relegated to obscurity. On the other hand, Swooping Hawks, my hands down favourite aspect, have now actually genuinely become useful, which is always a good thing.
Something we talked about actually at one point.
Yeah.
That Swooping Hawks were something they could make good, and you were quite doubtful about it, so you must be quite happy that
I'm quite happy to be wrong in this regard, but overall, yeah, I'd say it's like the disappointing aspect powers is a wee bit of a letdown, plus the gear for autarchs I was really looking forward to. As someone who does play an aspect army, I was looking forward to maybe ditching the Farseer and actually having an autarch. Yeah, combat character. Not even necessarily a combat character, but something that is actually valuable for points in terms of leadership.
Given your fear for the book before it came out, though, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with
I'd probably go for I'd agree with Neil. I'd say it's about 7. There's plenty of things that still bug me about the book. Some interesting wording errors that I would not have put in certainly in the descriptions. That kind of detract from although not rules, just kind of the appearance of how they're presented. I especially dislike the focus of Exarch powers being on duels. I've never really imagined Eldar would give anyone else the time of day, yet alone the honour of an honourable duel.
Well, they do it in some of the novels. They do it in the Night Lord's books. Jane Czar was quite honourable, actually. I quite liked the way they portrayed it. Like, even to Chaos Space Marine, they had Jane Czar treating him with respect.
Yeah, that's never the view I and quite a few of the other Eldar players that I've known for a while have had. We were both quite surprised. Or I say we were all quite surprised.
I was laughing there. The other Eldar players that I know of are also disgusted. Both of us.
Yeah. me and a couple of other mates that I've talked about outside this.
What about you, Peter? What do you think of the book, and what would your rating of it be?
In general, as mentioned, they've got some internal balance problems, but what I do like is the fact that most of the sections, Trips HQ, Fast Attack and such, are quite competitive, the actual areas. So, as Neil mentioned earlier, a lot of the lists are different, which is really good. It's not on the same level as like Tau, which is probably one of the best cases of that, especially in 6th edition. But from that perspective, the army worked quite well, although it does have its problems. And then, in general, I've never been the biggest Eldar fan, so I probably would have to agree with Neil and Jay on probably 7 out of 10. I might go higher just because I'm a nice person and I usually err upwards. But
except when you're a psycho.
Yeah, I err upwards. Okay, that. So your rating is mine minus.
So
but
with 3 7s then for the Eldar Codex. I will go for 6 because I'm not really happy with how Games Workshop put the focus on the Wraith Knights and all the Wraith units. I'm not too happy about how some of the cooler units have been made weak sauce. I think they could have made this a lot better than it was. And the only reason I'm going for 6 and not 5 is that at the very least they've put varied armies into it. But again, the whole focus on Wraith units and then the fact that army doesn't blend well with the standard Space Marine type army still really pisses me off because I think that's kind of anti-logical and or counter-logic. So I'll go for a 6. Okay, so
Greg bringing the harsh reality back down to earth there. Okay.
I was going to go for 5, then you all 3 went for 7. So I was like, you made some good points in your summaries, so I put it up to a 6. So
we'll make Greg go first in future.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Oh, just so we get your real opinion.
Yeah.
Nothing.
There's some advantages to hosting.
I'll help the average if Greg goes first next time. I was like, 10! Brilliant! I bought an army in secret. Yeah.
So we had E3 in the last
that's what I was about to bring
few
up,
days.
E3.
So, anyone see anything that are interested at E3?
Yeah, as a massive Xbox fan and someone who's never liked PlayStations and the PS2 I bitterly didn't like, even though I owned one. I was really annoyed that my objective view is that the PS4 looks a lot better than the Xbox One. That annoyed me quite a bit because I'm a fanboy at heart and I don't get to be a fanboy about this. Xbox has just fucked up royally and PlayStation 4 has said the right things. If their controller wasn't shite, then I would probably have got one if I was still interested in consoles.
Yeah, it should be pointed out that we're pretty much all PC gamers here. Like, we all own Xboxes.
Well, I mean, I own a 360 and I would have considered getting a PS3, so I was potentially going to buy something this generation, and I might still do it one day.
PS4. Right.
I hope the Xbox One's better by that point. I think they might change their tune in some things, but the whole not buying pre-owned games thing, what the fuck? And
well, the thing is, I'm only interested in the only thing I'm interested in for Xbox One is actually Halo games. That's actually the only franchise that's exclusive that I'm really that interested in. But I'm not spending 450 quid or whatever it is
the reason
to buy one.
The reason I never got a PS3 was because of the price. I thought it was outlandish, and I was like, nope, refuse. And it's just the tables have turned because Sony's actually the cheaper one now.
It's cheaper, and I was paying attention to the rumored hardware specs, and that hasn't changed. Yeah, the hardware specs are better. It doesn't come with a Kinect. I don't even I know people are like, oh, you don't have to use it. I don't even have room to put it. Like, I don't have a space to put the Kinect.
I thought
I literally can't use it.
Yeah.
I don't want
jumping in my room's a good idea.
Surprisingly, though, Sony have come across as sort of although it's clearly just marketing and like jumping in the fact that people are pissed off at Microsoft. They've specifically come out and said like we support pre-owned games, blah 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 blah. They are also doing some sneaky shit though, like they're having their own Xbox Live type service now where PSN is going to be costing money.
You say that's sneaky. That's not really sneaky. Actually, they've been fairly out and direct saying that it's not.
I know. I'm just saying sneaky because I like to exaggerate.
And that system does already exist. So if you're already a member of it, it does transfer over to the new PlayStation.
Yeah.
I know. So they do point out that if you want this is in order to be able to fund the servers.
Yes, because the servers are they famously big cock-ups with the previous PSN.
So
I was more just saying that like the advantages the PlayStation had in the previous generation, which for example was free online play, isn't there anymore, which is just something to mention. But I'm still like thinking the PS4 looks like a much better prospect. There's not that many exclusives in Microsoft anymore, I don't think. I mean, the games I used to always play in console was Grand Theft Auto, and that was the big one for me when Xbox got that. That's why I ended up getting a 360. But PlayStation will have all that stuff too, so it's.
No, for me the three big game series are Kingdom Hearts, which is of course on both apparently, Final Fantasy, which admittedly did have a bit of a issue with the last couple, but hopefully having seen the gameplay footage for number 15. It just sounds ridiculous. It does look like it could be going back to less. Alright, okay, well I guess I just Hammer X now. So that obviously will be good, and Halo. So for me, it's looking like if I did get one, it would unfortunately be the Xbox.
As much like I said, like I will not buy a console. The best Sony can do is stop me buying an Xbox, the worst Microsoft can do is stop me getting an Xbox. Like I'm not going to get a PlayStation. I just don't like the aesthetic either. So. But game-wise, I mean, some of the exclusive... Rise to Rome, was it Rise Sons of Rome?
Rise Sons of Rome, I had a look at that, and it looks like it's not...
I've only seen the trailer, which is always...
I'm sure some people like it, but it's like, it visually looks really good, don't get me wrong. Gameplay, like, the trailer's only, 5-6 minutes long, and basically the combat system is built pretty much entirely around QuickTime events.
Ugh.
And 5-6 minute video, or
I think it's a God of War style game.
I think
that's what I heard.
Yeah, that sounds very so. But in 5-6 minute video, I seen the same QuickTime events on fighting people multiple times. Not to mention, I couldn't work out what was happening. It seemed to be like a D-Day like type landing, but they were fighting barbarians. But they had like giant stone castles. I couldn't really work out who they were fighting what's happening.
To be fair, like the Space Marine computer game had like QuickTime events in the combat, and they were quite similar at times. But that was cool as fuck.
It come across differently. That was like you cut through horde, you had a big guy, you clash, you got that put strength thing, or QuickTime event. This was quite literally every single person that died was a QuickTime event.
So not really Dynasty Warriors then.
No, not even close. It was every single person you killed, I believe, on the trailer was through a QuickTime event.
That doesn't sound too good. There was some other announcements. Nintendo announced quite a lot of games coming out for the Wii U.
But Super Smash Bros.
Looked like a Nintendo announcement from one of their previous years, to be honest.
Pikmin 3, Mario 3D game.
Pikmin, Super Smash Brothers, and like
was there a new Mario Kart as well?
No, it's like the whole staple of Nintendo games.
Not yet, anyway.
Well, like I always liked Nintendo when they had a soul. I loved the GameCube.
I thought
adored
they mentioned a new Mario Kart game.
The Wii U had...
Was there?
I seen a picture of a Mario Kart game.
I think they mentioned it.
I seen a picture of it and I thought, cool. But Mario Kart Wii, or whatever it was called, was shockingly bad. Like, it was just made for people who... There was no challenge to it because the roads were so wide and like...
Well, wasn't the problem we had with it was that there was no delay between being hit and...
there was no immunity for damage after being hit, so it was so easy just to get changed. Yeah, you just banjoed all the way. Elastic banded all the way through the game. So you go first and then just ping back to last.
And they also the whole mechanic where like someone who's behind speeds up a bit to catch up. I don't mind that. That's fair enough. It encourages like more action. But like they really toned it up this time round, so having a big lead didn't matter. Like at least in the previous games, if you did get like a 30-second lead, you were probably going to win. But in the new one, like a 30-second lead would quickly become a 2-second lead.
Yeah, especially because the way
they played down luck and mayhem more skill, I want to say.
There was definitely less skillful. I mean, the fact that the roads were so wide was just...
I found it. Mario Kart 8 hits the track next year. There's a few pictures. Seems like there's one of like Mario on a motorbike and stuff like that. So
they should go back to the double dash model.
Luigi like on a wall, so it seems like there's some interesting mechanics in there. And one of the maps I just seen a picture has like you can be driving on the ceiling past people on the ground almost. It's not really a ceiling, it's just a weird... it looks interesting, it looks quite nice as well.
Good. Another random Nintendo game you used to like was Mario Party, although I doubt there's a new Mario Party game.
Was there a new Zelda game?
I think they announced New Zelda, didn't they? Yeah, the New Zelda's coming out this year.
Sorry.
New Zelda's definitely coming out before the year ends. So they're releasing a lot of big hitters, and I mean, like, Wii U sales did go up like 900% when the Xbox One was announced. And, like, you have to think about it, I mean, like, the Wii U will probably be south of £200, won't it, by Christmas, I think?
I don't know what it is at the moment.
I read an article that said that. I mean, I don't pay attention that much to the console wars anymore because I'm more of a PC gamer, but if the Wii is, you know, if over £150 less than the PS4 and the Xbox, you might get a few people getting it just because they can't afford to get the other ones, and if it's got some good games coming out, a big tirade.
Yeah, with some of the bigger Nintendo stuff coming out, such as there's a new Mario World multiplayer, kind of themed off of Mario 2, way back in the SNES. 4 different characters, but you know, 3D multiplayer should be interesting. Then obviously with new Mario Kart, new Super Smash Bros coming out, you know, new Zelda. That's 4 big hitters right there.
Yeah, so
never mind anything else.
They might do better. I mean, the Wii U is kind of disappointing, obviously, and that whole pad thing was like, what the hell? But the game
definitely weird in the sense it definitely came, or definitely under the radar for a lot of people.
What do you guys think of the aesthetics for the new consoles?
I prefer the Xbox just because I think the PS4 is like a rhombus shape, it kind of slanted. I don't see the point.
Weirdly, right, actually, here's something I don't know if you guys noticed this or feel this too, but the Xbox looks like they've designed it to hide, like, so it doesn't look like a games console. It looks like something you would have on your TV.
It looks like a digibox.
It just sits on your entertainment center.
Whereas the PS4 still looks like a gaming console, and they aren't hiding from it. So I don't know, like, I don't like PlayStation design, I don't even like that PlayStation design, but I'm like, okay, but it is a games console.
That's one of the things with the Xbox One is that although it is a games console, it is trying to build in a lot of the
I miss the
all-in-one entertainment sector.
Like I miss GameCubes and N64s and PS1s and, you know, the Xbox One, which was just a machine. It was the gaming brick.
One of the problems I think is that
I don't really care what it looks like, to be honest.
I don't like the rhombus shape. I don't think it's
aesthetics
useful.
Important to me.
The rhombus, I think, will just, and I don't think it'll ever be a benefit. It may look okay, but it's, you know, you have some people try to slot that in their space, and because it's a rhombus, it won't fit.
I think aesthetics are quite important though. Like,
yeah, they can be.
I'm not just interested in the hardware and the games. Like, I know it sounds weird, but even the intro graphics and like the basic UI, I'm going to be using that so much that if that's ugly, like, I don't like Sony's way of doing it. I always think it's too dark, and like, I'm never a big fan of it. I wasn't a fan of the original Xbox 360 one either, but like, those sorts of things can sway me if everything else is even. Then
yes, if it's even, might go for the aesthetics, but I will put practicality first.
It's the same way I like to get coloured DSs.
Yeah, for me it's all down to games and hardware. For me,
either
I don't give a crap what it looks like.
Either of those would be fine, considering where my 360 sits. Not that it's ever used anymore, but considering where my 360 sits, if one of those was to replace it, they'd both do a better job than one of my original style 360s.
What really put me off the 360 though was the online checks thing. Right, this is probably
360.
Yeah, the online check. No, the online check. Sorry, I hate calling it the Xbox One. It is not the Xbox One. It is the Xbox 3. But anyway, the reason I'm getting quite finicky about that, and I don't like the online check thing, is because the times I play my Xbox most is when I can't get online. So like, like, that's what it's there for. Sort of when like when I can't get online, when my internet's down.
Doesn't take into consideration things like your router breaking and you not having access, or if you're
from,
switching providers and your connection's out for a couple of days.
Yeah, or you're from the Hebrides where you got really volatile and slow internet connection.
Yeah, it's just.
I don't think they're overly worried about the Hebrides.
Well, no, but like I get offended at that, and like that puts me off buying it, like stuff like that, because there's a lot of rural people, and it's unfair that they should focus entirely in cities. It might be pro-marketing, but it's not really thinking about the consumer, and that's why PS4 is getting my vote reluctantly.
For Xbox, Xbox really has basically said come out and said it's not a consumer-based product. Everything it's doing is industry based rather than for the benefit of the consumer.
And that's why
it's fair enough they've said that, but hell, mend them.
They've not said it, but
it's one of these things.
They've all but said.
Yeah, it's one of these strange ones where Xbox One or Microsoft does seem to be taking a big risk. Theoretically, what they're doing could, the ideas behind it are good, but it is limiting in a lot of cases. But and of the two, they are taking the larger risk, seemingly, because
there is
PS4 seems to definitely play it safe almost.
There's absolutely no reason that console should have to phone in every 24 hours.
Definitely.
I get the idea is that you can then download your games, but you should have a profile where you can say, I do not want that ability, disable that so I don't have to do it. And like that profile can never. Sorry, something caught my throat there. But yeah, and that profile can never ever do that. That's fine. But you should be able to turn it off for people who can't do that. And
it's just annoying.
They should have some sort of system.
Publishers have enough advantages as it is. I'm afraid. Like consumers should not get punished to give publishers an advantage.
I always think it's a wee bit like a wee bit like the the adverts in the cinema that tell you the anti-piracy thing, and you're going, I've given you the money. Why are you moaning at me?
Yeah. But like it's also particularly annoying that Microsoft has been doing the whole thing with you can't buy pre-owned games, because it's another thing they're doing to shaft themselves. And like considering it's what Sony did with the PS3. I mean, let's not forget the 360 if you don't include the Wii's ridiculous sales, the 360 basically won that joust between the PS3 and the 360. It got more sales, so they had a better starting base. I mean, even before E3, there was more people that had pre-ordered an Xbox One than a PS4. That's how much of a loyal consumer base they'd built, and they're kicking themselves in the balls.
I would say they haven't said there's no pre-owned games. They've said you can only get pre-owned games from participating retailers only. So we're probably looking at...
Or if you're a private individual selling a game to another private individual, they have to be in your friends list for 30 days. So you can't say to your mate, here, play this game I bought, I'm finished with it.
Unless you've been on your friend list.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like...
You can only do that once, so you can't pass a game around.
You can't let someone borrow it, then let them give it back.
Yeah, I think it goes off permanently.
Yeah, it's bollocks. It's just poorly thought out and like anti-consumer.
I think there's a way around that, but I can't remember what it is.
So
there should be a way around it. Should be a thing.
It'll be one of these things where it's just you can't. It's just screwing over small businesses that regard it, because the big businesses will probably have been like, well, you give us all these like pre-order bonuses to make sure people buy the copies of your game anyway. So you're not going to want us, although you might moan about it, you're not actually going to want to cut us out of the pre-owned game market.
As in well been speaking, Microsoft's executives come out and talked about the negativity response to Xbox One. And basically, his view on it is actually similar to what I mentioned yesterday to someone, which basically it's similar but different reasons. But it's basically he's saying it's not a sprint. And
I saw that earlier.
There's some other stuff that wait till it's closer to release. Some unannounced content.
That's nonsense. Why
try and persuade? Yeah, I don't know the stuff that hasn't finalised.
It's not a sprint. Well, I'll tell you what. Hopefully they get things out before kids write their Christmas list and before pre-orders are made, because that's not how people function. Like most families will know what they're getting for their kids' Christmas pretty early on, and generally look for the deals early on and make their bookings earlier on to make sure they get it. And with new consoles coming out, there's always a shortage. So good luck to them if they're seriously going to wait till close to the time, because they will probably run out of Xboxes anyway. But it's all about image.
It just definitely seems like it's, from what he's saying, it seems like it's very much a executive decision to purposely not necessarily to piss everyone off, but to
withhold information.
they maybe knew they were going to withhold information. Whatever the reason is, well, they can't release it because it's not finalised. But they knew that they might get a negative response, and they're having to build that into their strategy.
I'm going to say that's bollocks. They probably didn't expect. Yeah. As someone who does spinning, that's spinning, and that is just saying, "Oh God, we got a negative response." They did not expect a negative response because they would never try to generate a negative response. If they did,
never.
If they did,
you don't try and generate a negative response. You try and generate a good response.
If you know you're getting,
but you have
you're going to
get
a negative response from your big launch event. If they knew they were going to do that, then they should sack every person responsible for it.
Yeah.
Like they genuinely lost customers.
Like I don't mean they go, okay, we're going to get a next response here. That's our goal. Their goal is obviously to get a good response, but they
knew they would get a negative one.
No,
if you're withholding information at the risk of a negative response, that's a big gamble.
You can look at some of the stuff you're doing and go, some people will not like this. They can't change that.
But
they can change it. But from what you said, it sounds like more information.
It sounds like that guy is trying to portray it as if, we knew this would happen, but don't worry, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. I'm guessing that's the general tone of what he said.
I think you're saying, I think Jay, you said withholding information, but they might not be withholding information on the areas people dislike. There might be other areas where they can expand upon later. I think they might have stuff they can't physically tell people for.
Then they shouldn't have released this bad stuff at all. Like they should have waited until all of it was there and then announced that stuff.
It's corporate spin here.
That might
be corporate spin.
Because there's bad stuff. There are good stuff about Xbox One. There are some bad stuff that's over. The power, a lot of the online stuff. It generally looks good, but in general, yes, there's bad stuff. But I think it would have been worse for them if they just didn't release anything about it. They went, nope, we're taking an E3 this year. We're not. Here's some Xbox 360 stuff.
They should have had this stuff.
Enjoy the Xbox. Yeah, but that's the thing. I don't know what extra content.
I'm sure we'll see when the sales happen, but I'm predicting that the PS4 is going to, with the pricing, especially if the price is just slaughtered Microsoft, and Microsoft have to change their track. And if they continue to say, "Oh yeah, don't worry, it's a marathon, not a sprint," then that is just some exec who's responsible for these decisions, defending himself and pretending he knows what he's doing. I reckon behind the scenes at Microsoft, there's a lot of pissed off shareholders and high up people who didn't expect this and will be looking for explanations. But anyway, we've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes now, I think, roughly. So
yep.
I think
our original time goal was probably
45 minutes, yeah. So that was the first of our podcasts, Squidcast even. One thing we didn't talk about was the name of this. We're thinking Squidcast because we're Team Kraken. We'll go into the explanation of why we're called Team Kraken another time, no doubt. But what do you think? Squidcast or something else? So that all few people
put your suggestions either in the comments, or if you have anything else you think we should talk about, you can send an email to teamkraken13@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Or
you can find us on Twitter, which we'll probably start posting on now that we've done a video.
Yeah. We've got a Twitter account set up, which is @teamkraken13, which I'll now start using. And we'll probably set up some other ways you can contact us in the near future. But we wanted to actually get something we could post so that we weren't sort of spamming people with nothing at the moment.
Yep.
So once this is up, we should be able to find us on YouTube and hopefully on iTunes and any other formats that we can put this up on. And we'll let you know in the description of this video where you can go to download it. So.
So, cheerio.
Alright, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. See yous.